I have the writer and director here with me of Lilly Lives Alone, Martin Melnick, and I'm very excited to have you with me today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Lilly Lives Alone follows Lily, a guilt-ridden mother guided by the ghost of her daughter, who plunges into madness through the course of a drug-fueled fever dream. I'm wondering what the initial inspiration was behind Lily Lives Alone, and were there any films or filmmakers that you used as influences?
It's a great question. Yeah, so actually, kind of funny. The original sort of the impetus for starting this project was actually sort of a challenge from my wife, Sarah Johnston, who's the producer of the film. We have other projects that we've been developing, but they were sort of maybe on a larger scope,
Mhm.
and we were sort of contemplating how we could make a film on our own. And she came to me and she was like, I got a challenge for you. Okay, why don't you, instead of working on these right now, why don't you put your energy into a script that's like one or two people in a room? And it was just
Mhm.
really honed down on the character story. And I was like, yeah, I can do one or two people in a room. And I came back 30 days later with a rough draft for Lily, and she's like,
Oh,
this
wow.
is like eight or nine people in a few locations. And I was like, okay, so I didn't quite get the challenge, but it really was about this idea of, okay, how could we sort of construct a story that is really character centric and keep it really contained. So it's in a
Mhm.
small space and use that as not a constraint, but as like part of the story. So the
Mhm.
whole idea of being trapped in this house or this claustrophobia really became part of the atmosphere and character and a sort of reinforcement of the story as a whole. And so I didn't want something that was like we're constrained here because we just can't make something big. It's like why don't we make this intentionally
Mhm.
and intentionally small in that scope so that like we're really feeling it and it's designed that way. So yeah, it really started as a how can we tell a real character story in a genre lens in a small space with a few principal players and
Mhm.
um, from there is was like her and I crafting ideas. So like in my family, I've had a history of family members with substance use disorder issues,
Mhm.
and she's had experiences with childhood trauma and all these different things that were sort of layers of our own personal identities, sort of carving. Nothing is a one to one, but personal
Mhm.
identities sort of carving into these characters. And we're like, what if we told a simple character story about someone who's going through something that is generational? And yeah, it sort of built from there, and then we sort of just developed it more and more, but keeping it contained to that space.
Mhm.
There are a lot of films that inspire sort of and I've talked about it a few times, and from different aspects, like Kurosawa's Cure plays a big
Mhm.
important part. There's a lot of this like, and I've worked with our sound designer on this, but there's a lot of like undercurrents of design that are meant to like carry a sort of a tone of apprehension and paranoia throughout the whole piece that really leads to this feeling of isolation. And then I was talking actually to someone earlier today about the movie Bug, William Friedkin's movie,
Oh, yeah.
which is one of my favorites. I really love the play by Tracy Letts, and like the idea behind that movie is a similar setup where you have this woman who's lost her child
Mhm.
in the past and is now sort of isolating herself. But that movie sort of explores it in a quite a different way, and like
Yeah.
with a character who's searching for almost like an external validation, whereas our movie is more about a person's self-discovery of needing, or like a discovery of needing to find sort of forgiveness for yourself, like from within, and reconciliation from within. So it's kind of like there's these different movies where I was really inspired by the setups and the constraints, but really wanted to explore something that I hadn't seen before. And so that was sort of the like the jumping off point for crafting the character of Lily.
Wow, I would have never have thought bug could have anything to do with Lily Lives Alone. I understand what you mean though.
I
Um,
mean, quite different too. So like, they're
yeah.
not like a one to one, but there's definitely some inspirations there.
And so the film deals with grief, trauma, isolation in a very atmospheric way, almost experimental sometimes, and you don't over-explain things. So I'm wondering what made you want to approach these themes with surreal imagery and supernatural elements rather than just, a straightforward narrative.
Oh, sure. That I love that question.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I love surrealism. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Mhm.
I think, especially a film is a visual medium, and I really love the ways you can experiment with it. For me, I mean, in sort of our age group, we all grew up with David Lynch and we all, then deep dives into Fellini and other experimental, films that really use like dreamlike imagery and things like from there. I love genre movies. I love
Mhm.
horror primarily because, I mean, I love a lot of different kinds of horror, but I love horror primarily because I think it works really well as the nth degree of drama. And I've had this conversation. I love this conversation because I feel like when I first started out making films, I was gravitating towards just making character dramas, and I love drama.
Mhm.
But the more I got into sort of trying to craft characters and write things and really dissect stuff, I really kind of had that realization that most of what moves or motivates drama is what we're afraid of. So like sort of there's this like concept in nonviolent communication that like the way we communicate with each other has a lot to do with things that we're not processing that we're
Mhm.
individually afraid of. And so what better way than using horror to like say, like, I want to tell this story, but I don't want to go halfway. I want to investigate the drama fully. I want to go that deep into the character that I'm like asking you to go to take a deep dive with someone going through some real shit.
Mhm.
Because that's what that's what fear is. Fear is the nth degree of
Yeah.
drama to me. It's like where you're really going all the way in on investigating these characters. So yeah, I really liked the idea of playing with surrealism, playing with memory and fragmented memory
Mhm.
as sort of a reinforcement of her, not just her delusions, but her paranoia and her confusion over what's happening. Because I feel like um, it's really hard to convey through just traditional means and traditional storytelling how a person's, I guess, psychosis might be sort of taking over. It's a
Mhm.
really hard thing to do, and I like the idea that that sort of surreal imagery almost kind of lends itself. And then there's some tricks in the edits throughout the movie that are a lot of them are really hidden and really subtle. And there's hidden ghosts, there's little hidden things throughout, but
Mhm.
a lot of it is designed that if you missed it or you watched it again or you just saw it in your periphery and you didn't even realize and didn't fully process that you
Mhm.
saw it, that it just reinforces that you're kind of it's going to make you feel weird in your gut while watching it, and
Totally.
you might not necessarily always know why, but it's really designed to sort of put you in the seat of Lilly so you can get her experience.
In the opening monologue, which I
Mhm.
loved. It was
Oh, thank
very
you.
poetic, so beautiful. It stayed with me. I still think about quotes from that about, how to make you make a memory in 30 seconds and combined with the beautiful ocean waves imagery. I'm wondering what inspired that monologue and the idea of memory being fragmented or unreliable.
Sure.
Like you touched on it a bit, but any further
Yeah.
uh
So actually, like, if I can take it back really quick, just so you mentioned the opening of the waves and the ocean waves. So it was really important to me, and for the longest time, I didn't want to talk about this because I really wanted people to just kind of find this for themselves. But
mhm,
the sort of the pregnancy and the cell mitosis and other things throughout the movie are sort of play a pretty prominent role. Um, and the movie is structured so that the opening is this like ethereal ocean, and the bulk of the film of the three acts takes place in this sort of womb-like environment of her house.
mhm,
That's incredibly confusing and claustrophobic. And I don't want to give away the ending, but there's some forest things that come into it. So this idea of starting where cells and life began, which is in the ocean, and going through this whole
mhm.
gestation period of a pregnancy and then coming back into the earth is
Oh.
sort of a thing structured into the edit. But furthermore, the fragmented idea was came from something I learned in elementary school. It stuck with
Mhm.
me, where I had a teacher when I think maybe fourth or fifth grade who was telling us that there was a way to sort of focus on making a memory, and that oftentimes we forget things, and the only way to do that is to concentrate for 30 seconds, which sounds hokey, but since that moment, since fourth or fifth grade, anytime something has been significant in my life and I really didn't want to forget it, I've intentionally stopped for 30 seconds and focused on it,
Wow.
on remembering it. And every one of those instances I still have.
Oh my
So they actually
gosh.
worked for me at least. And so I really wanted to play with that idea when it comes to trauma, because one of the things that I've learned through all of my research or through people that are important to me or through crafting this story and my own experiences is that things like childhood trauma, things, CPTSD, any kind of complex trauma really impacts memory and the reliability of memory. And this is
Mhm.
actually a big problem for folks that are trying to process through therapy or different other practices, or even trying to piece together their own history and their own past in order to work through things. It
Mhm.
becomes really hard when you can't exactly remember the abuses or the traumas or the fear that you realized. And piecing together that is I think something really interesting. So I was really interested in this idea that what if, we have the ability with edits? What if the edit skips on itself? What if it actually repeats
Mm,
itself? What if we're hiding things that aren't correct, or we're showing you things from one person's perspective, and then we're showing you that we're actually kind of not showing you the correct perspective, which happens a few times from Lily's perspective throughout the movie.
mhm.
So I was really interested in this idea that of playing with memory built into the edit itself, so that like the edit isn't super fragmented, but that there are little elements of her
Mhm.
trying to process, because the movie is about her processing. The whole night is about
Mhm.
her processing. What if that is built into the edit? What if her personal look inward is reflected through the edit itself in the movie?
I watched Lilly Lives Alone twice more after the first time, and well,
Or
and
it's a heavy watch. It's a heavy
I
watch to go
know
through.
it was very spread apart, I'll say.
Okay, good.
But I did notice more details on each time. Like there were hands that were in the background that I didn't notice that were very creepy, by the way, and shadows. And I was wondering, were those visual motifs meant to reflect Lily's discomfort with vulnerability, like being touched and or accepting help, processing all that grief and trauma
I love
with
that. I hadn't given a whole lot of thought to hands in regards to specifically like her ability to be touched, but I really like the idea that you've sort of read into this like idea of when people are trying to reach out to her, because that is a theme throughout the film that
Mhm.
and it's astute observation that like a lot of these things start creeping in when people are there to help. Things start not
Oh.
allowing her to accept help. So that definitely is implanted there. But no, I hadn't given thought to
Uh,
the hand specifically as a motif, but I really like that, and I feel like that's a great interpretation.
what is that like to have people coming to these different conclusions about stuff like that?
It's
Do you,
my favorite thing in the world. I mean, that was one
yeah.
of the things that was we had a lot of discussions about how much we were going to give the audience,
Hmm.
and have to learn that a lot of audience members don't like to not be given everything, and that's okay too. I love films that force me to make my own connections, and some things are intentional from the filmmaker. There's a lot of intentional things I put into the film to take from it, but the sort of ambiguity that you've talked about and the open-endedness, a lot of that was a conscious decision. The
Okay.
conscious decision to not feed you too much, because I really wanted you, as long as you understood as an audience member the sort of journey for Lily and what that meant to her. Everything else peripherally, I wanted you to make your own connections
Hmm.
with. And that's why I didn't want to overfeed. We actually had more that we cut out. I cut out
Hmm.
quite a bit intentionally because, we filmed a little bit more that I think overtly explained a little too much for
Mm.
me. And upon watching those, we were like, and we knew we were probably going to cut it out, but we wanted to have it just in case. We were like, no, I like where this leaves you. If it leaves you feeling like you need to sit there and make your own connections, and then you, like you said, you watched it a couple of times, and each time you're like, oh my gosh, I got this new thing out of it. And
Hmm.
uh, that's my favorite thing about watching movies too, is I come back to a movie that I've loved maybe every 10 years and rewatch it, and I'm a different person
Hmm.
then, and I've noticed something different because I'm bringing a new lens to it. And so it was important for me that the film tells a story, and it's not so ambiguous that it's rude. It's not ambiguous to the point where the information for the story is there. It is all there, and you can get everything out of it. Didn't want anything to be random because there wasn't an answer. There are answers.
Hmm.
They're just not easily fed. You have to sit there and sort of have a real emotional connection and discussion with yourself with the movie in order
Hmm.
to really digest all of those. And that was that like sweet spot. It was important to me to keep in.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I love that. I think those interpretations are
Cool.
awesome. Like anytime someone tells me what they got from something in the movie, I'm honored and excited about it. It's awesome.
Shannon Beeby gave such a strong performance as Lily, balancing her fear, the emotional instability, and even humor. So then you have Jeffrey Combs' character that feels like he really wants to help her out, despite her pushing away all the time. So I'm wondering what interested you with that dynamic between them.
Sure. I mean, working with both of them is a dream. This is the second
Hmm.
time I've gotten to direct Shannon. Shannon starred in a short film I directed in 2018 called Circle, and she's a treasure. She's not only
Hmm.
a phenomenal actor, which is like it's insane. It makes me look great. She's just also a wonderful collaborator and friend. So like working with her wasn't just rehearsing and blocking. It was really like she brought a lens to the character that helped develop the character. And we worked,
Hmm.
went through my script. She asked me so many questions about motivations and lines and other things that we really dissected her character through readings. And it was just a very rewarding collaborative process. And she can do everything. And then of course
Hmm.
Jeffrey Combs is Jeffrey Combs. I mean, I've been, grew up watching his movies and Star Trek. I'm a complete Star Trek nerd, so that's something a lot of folks know about me. And of course Reanimator and The Frighteners and Castle Freak and just
Hmm.
endless amazing performances from Jeffrey. But one of the things that when I was developing this character for him, that it was important to me was like I know his range, and I know that in general people love to, and for good reason, because he's fun. He's a fun actor. Is they love to play up this sort of Reanimator camp with his characters, and that's
Hmm.
great. I mean, he can do that while he's asleep, right? But when I approached him with the role and in the script, and we started talking in our first discussions about it, he was we were very, very clear, and he was very like excited about the fact that this wasn't, and no shade to all those others because he loves doing that too, but that this was not a camp role. This was we're going into a deep dive of asking a lot of empathy of these characters in a really dark place. Okay, so this is a role that I'm gonna have to deep dive into some dark spaces for.
Hmm.
And so working with him was amazing. And then that dynamic, to answer your question, that dynamic between the two, um, like the sort of community reaching out to Lilly was definitely like a major role, um, an important aspect of the movie because like her friend reaches out to her.
Hmm.
It's obviously the neighbors, and Jeffrey's character reaches out to her, and the idea the whole time through Lily's lens, because that's how we're seeing the movie, is how much are they reaching out because they actually care versus how much should she be suspicious of them? Do they have nefarious intent? Like, um, are they there to help? Are they actually the enemy? Or is it even like a third option, which is maybe they're purporting to help, but they're actually sort of loving that they're kind of everyone's in the same corner of this town. So everyone's kind of in the
Hmm.
same situation. They all have their own baggage, but maybe they feel a little morally superior to her, and that makes
Hmm.
them feel better. So is there that level of yeah, I'm here to help, but because I'm really secretly judging you kind of aspect, that sort of
Hmm.
power dynamic. So I really wanted to play with the suspicion of the power dynamic from Lily's perspective of all these characters. And Jeffrey hits this perfect tone where even when he's in a deep dive of seriousness, there's this air of, is he fucking with me? And he can pull that off underneath like an incredibly emotional and vulnerable line. He can still pull off this little tinge of maybe I am. And it just led to this like dynamic with Shannon, who has a very grounded performance in these moments that really I just felt like that push and pull of that sort of like suspicion that she has for him and his character really worked by playing those types against each other.
The practical effects that were used in Lily Lives Alone were incredible. I especially loved the rapid cell division and the fetus effects, which you yourself achieved those effects using materials like liquid materials and baking dishes, a fish tank, lighting setups with pulsing lights, and much more. How long did all that experimenting take you? I think you should be a special effects artist, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you. That's sweet. I mean, so to throw out throughout the majority of the film, the practical effects were done by our amazing effects artist Carlo Meri. So like the her pregnant belly and it pulsating and all that stuff was a rig he designed. The neck
Mm.
stab wound was a rig he designed. He created the bloodbath and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
the bulk of the real work and all the makeup and scars
Yeah.
go to our amazing art effects lead, and he helped me out also with some suggestions when I was in studio filming the cells and the fetus. But yeah, no, I was really stoked at how they came out. Honestly, so I do have a little bit of a background. I'm not an effects artist, but I in the past I've worked post production, so I did a lot of 2D compositing in my
Mhm.
past before I became a colorist, and before directing a lot of stuff. One of my first projects was a music video where I did stop motion animation and built a
Mm.
miniature set. And so I really got like hooked on doing, and all the sets in that piece are practical. And I really got into
Wow.
doing practical miniature work. So I just really became fascinated in that. So I really like things that are tactile that I can feel and work with my hands.
Mhm.
Um, And for this, I looked at other examples. Like I really early on, I was like, okay, how am I going to achieve this fetus? I was like, we can try CGI, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, even when it looks really good, I was just like, I wanted it to be a little grittier, have a little more bite, and just be grounded since it's such
Mhm.
a serious piece. So I tried a few CGI tests. I did not like them,
Mhm.
mostly because I'm not great at it, but I just didn't like it. And I was like, okay, what can we do that's miniature? So I looked up, like, there's like several people who have created wombs in a similar fashion. So I looked up what they did. Most of those were like room sized or huge and just were really expensive. I was like, okay, I can't spend $50,000 on a, on a single, uh, like four quick shots that are in the
Mhm.
movie. So I really deconstructed what they did and then tried to find a smaller, cheaper way to do it so that I could manage it myself. And yeah, it was just experiments. Really wasn't crazy. I I bought a fish tank and I lined it with materials that were cheap. So I found garbage bags. I got dollar store plastic garbage bags and shredded them up. And I got some rubber from a secondhand craft store we have. And I
Mhm.
started painting veins and other things on
Wow.
it and sort of painted this rubber and stretched it. It was very like stretchy. It was almost like latex, but not quite.
Mm.
And stretched it around the interior. So that with all the floating tissue, filled it with acrylics and fake blood and food dye. And then um, the only thing that I didn't craft from hand was I had the fetus miniature made. So I had that custom made, and it's just a small little, it's maybe like this big.
Mhm.
And I had that made and I suspended it, but I did mold in the umbilical cord. So I did that out of
Oh, wow.
waterproof modeling foam and made that and then strung everything up with fishing line and a C stand in a studio. And it looked great. We backlit it. I also fired a projector at it that had some cellular division just to give it a little bit of moving texture. A lot of that doesn't play, but it was just kind of gave it a little
Mhm.
bit of something. And then the real like sort of win was when I was there and had it all set up and it looked great, but it was a little too it was a little too translucent. It was
Mhm.
almost there, but it was just a little too translucent. Carlo, our FX artist, was there and he was watching and he's like, "This looks great." You know what would add that little bit of that change that opacity? What if we just added some milk? And
Ooh.
I was like, oh shit, okay, this is brilliant. It's great. So we added some milk, and all of a sudden, this cloudy
Wow.
texture mixed with everything else that I had, and that's the later sequences that you see where it sort of is
Okay.
like pluming, almost like there's amniotic fluid breaking. And I don't want to give away
Mhm.
too much, but it really just created this motion in it. So it was just this great addition that, yeah, it wasn't a lot of experimentation. I built the rig in about 2 days and of crafting stuff, and then shot for a full day in a studio, and
Mhm.
that's full day for the fetus, and then another full day for the cells. And
Wow.
yeah, the cells were fun. The cells was just
Uh,
me like a little kid in a baking
mm.
dish with like an eyedropper and different materials, bubbles, vegetable oil, soap. Dish soap and vegetable oil have
Mhm.
really cool reactions with each other. They make, and they just shot it at high speed with macro lenses. And I'd seen other people do this online and got some ideas, but I was like, none of them were quite what I wanted because I wasn't just going for abstract shapes. I wanted them to have some mass that looked like cells. So I was really focused
Mm.
on eye dropping like layered circles so that they had kind of a like a cell wall and other things. So it was a lot of experimentation that way to get that. But I was really happy with I got like maybe 3 hours of cells moving and
Oh my
used
God.
about 30 seconds of it in the movie. So
How do you choose? Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
that was the hardest process, was just sort of doing
Uh,
the selection on what parts I wanted to use.
And so there's also a bloodbath sequence, and which was also very impressive, technically and visually. And you had to get just the right mixture for the blood, with viscosity and opacity, but without staining the bathtub or Shannon Beeby. And there's some other effects work in that scene as well. And Shannon's performance with all of that was so on point. Her fear, oh my gosh, she does fear real well. And
Yes.
so I'm wondering, between all the effects work going on in that scene and you directing and shooting, what was all of that like?
It was a it was a crazy day.
Yeah,
It
I
was a crazy
bet.
day because the mixture and you know Carlo had to work really hard to get the mixture to fill a
Mhm.
bathtub. I mean, that I had no idea how much filling a bathtub really takes. So like it is a long process. Like there's because this isn't pre-made stuff. This is him
Mhm.
and his team crafting this from scratch. So it's finding the right viscosity, the color. Like you said, it can't stain. It has to
Hmm.
be safe. It has to not destroy the bathroom or our actor.
Hmm.
Um, but it has to also be realistic, and it can't just be
Hmm.
water. It has to have that thickness that blood has, that right viscosity. So it was a mixture. I don't know his exact recipe that he was working with, but they had mixers and buckets, and it was like a
Hmm.
mixture of Nesquik and glycerin and other stuff. And the whole room smelled like warm cocoa.
Well, that's
Um,
nice.
yeah, and actually, Shannon, it's kind of funny. I have some behind the scenes photos that a friend of mine took, my friend Mark took, and then also a couple that I snapped on there. But she was just chilling in the bathtub, and it
Oh
was
my
warm, so they
gosh.
made it warm. So like, it wasn't like she wasn't freezing, but she was just kind of chilling in a warm hot chocolate mix, like a marshmallow,
Yeah, I was
just
gonna say
floating
she's a
there.
marshmallow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't pleasant. It's very sticky and
Uh,
in goop, but it was, you could eat it. It was like an
that's so
edible
funny.
bathtub, and it was not cold, but it was um, a long process to get it there. And because, like you said, so we did have the bathtub lined with plastic. So
Mm.
the art team made sure that everything was protected. So actually, once we
Hmm.
drained everything, there wasn't a whole lot of reset on the actual tub, which was great.
Hmm.
But there's some jumping in the tub and out of the
Mm.
tub that there's a lot of splash.
Sure.
So because of that, I think we got to do, I want to say 3 takes, maybe
Okay.
of that motion at most. I can't remember, maybe 4, but I think we got 3 because the reset was like an hour. So like
Hmm.
cleaning everything back to spotless and getting everything filled back up and then re-cleaning Shannon. Like the whole process was just so long to make this sequence, but it was really rewarding and I love the way it turned out. It was like one of those things where you think it's like, okay, we're set. Don't screw up anything, and we only get like 1 or 2 shots of this, so go.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. It was great. It was just a challenge, and Carlo and his team pulled it off great, and the whole art team was amazing. It was a fun challenge. But yeah, then what was
Yeah.
great about it is once they were done, with it set up, I really could just work with Shannon, and it was just like, oh, okay, everything is set and ready to go. We can just focus on the character and what they're going through. So it was great. It was just we knew we had to get it.
And so the film touches on themes of mental health, isolation, support systems, or lack thereof, especially through the ambiguous ending that we have. And so I'm wondering, was social commentary something you were consciously exploring while writing Lilly Lives Alone, or did those themes come about more naturally through the story?
Oh, I mean, a little of both. I'm always pretty conscious of what I'm sort of putting together. I mean, I don't feel like I can really unlink sort of like a societal lens from the projects I'm working on. I
Hmm.
definitely gravitate towards like my own work is usually something that says something. I mean, at least I'm trying to. Otherwise, I'm kind of, I guess, not interested in it. I mean,
Hmm.
so I would say both. I would say that it started with this idea of wanting to tell a human story that's got some sort of truth to it, like a human truth, which I think is inherently political because you're investigating something that's personal, but also true to the maybe to the human condition.
Hmm.
But that certain elements of what Lily goes through definitely sort of evolved and came out and developed for me in my understanding of what the story was really about while writing it and while crafting it. So yeah, a little of both. Like I'm always very aware of that stuff, but I definitely
Hmm.
feel like it took on a life of its own and started making its own meaning as we got further along in the
Sure.
production.
You are a professional colorist and you were the cinematographer for the film as well. So I'm wondering how you approach the film's overall use of color because we have a lot of different coloring, sometimes saturated, sometimes muted. Each room was kind of different. I'm wondering how you approached the overall use of color.
Yeah, super intentionally. I mean, I wanted each room to have a little bit of a different feel. So and then without spoiling too much, there's different rooms at different times in her life too, because there's some moments that sort of are out of
Mm.
time. So it was really important for me to like use color as another tool set for like reinforcing what she's experiencing.
Hmm.
But actually, the kind of thing, this is very, I guess, very nerdy colorist and cinematographer type thing. But the movie actually gets slightly more saturated as you watch it.
Oh.
Um, so from the beginning, it starts out. I mean, not the sort of poem sequence in the beginning, but once we're in like thrown into the film, it starts with a little bit of this sort of like almost want to say sort of really desaturated, muted, almost like cigarette burn would kind
Hmm.
of be the way I'd describe it. Kind of everything feels a little bit like the memory of a place that was just filled with smoke.
Yeah.
It sort of goes from there, And as the night gets further and further on, and we get further into Lily's psyche, we start experiencing more and more pops of saturated colors. So we get like deep blues and deep yellows, and it sort of culminates into the most saturated that the movie is, which is the interior of the fetus. So like the movie goes in this sort of like nice up and down wave where it gets more and more saturated as the film goes on, as we get more and more into her sort of surreal, dreamlike state. So it was really cool for me to get to, out of sequence, sort of try to just play with rooms having their own feel, but then also the moments throughout the night getting more and more intense, and using color as a language for that.
You gave us a lot of cool fun facts, but actually, do you have any fun facts that come to mind?
Jeffrey Combs signed autographs for crew members in between like lunches and stuff here, and then we do Star Trek impressions for everybody. He's also the nicest, most professional person. It's so great working with him. I want to work with him a bunch. I'm just letting you know, he's a joy. Everyone loved him on set. He's a joy. He truly loves what he does, and he's very good at it. So I don't know. Everyone hired Jeffrey because he's the best.
Yeah, I'm gonna hire him.
You should. He's great. He's
in my
super
dreams.
Fun to work with.
I love seeing him be serious.
Me too. Like I've had the only issue with Jeffrey in this movie is that he's so not Jeffrey Combs in this movie as like Jeffrey Combs TM, that I've had people who were watching it for him be like, when does Jeffrey Combs show up in the movie? They didn't realize that was him, and because he's unshaven, he's covered up, he's super serious. I've had little people be like, I didn't realize it was Jeffrey Combs until like the third scene he's in. And I was like, I know, he's a chameleon. He's great.
Thank you again so much for talking with me today. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
You can watch Lilly Lives Alone on AMC Plus, Shudder, or VOD, or you can get the Blu-ray from Dark Sky Films on Vinegar Syndrome's website. You can get the standard edition or the limited edition.
You ain't the only person that ever lost somebody, you know?
I'm seeing things. Too many things. You can't let your guard down, not for a minute. And they're always coming for you.
We're your friends. This is what you call community.
You won't want to see me dead. I'm dying, but I'm still here. Claire, they're coming to get me, okay?
No one is coming to get you, babe.
You got somebody locked up in there? Answer me, Lily! What is this?
Today's 10 years. Yeah, I thought I'd be okay. Mama.
I didn't do a whole thing! I didn't do that! Look to me! Someday
Are you playing games with me? Is this fun for you?
I never asked for a kid. I didn't want one.
I was just thinking that maybe you needed some help. That's all that I can help.
Help!